Hello, today I'm going to do a general overview of electrochemistry. This isn't going to be an in-depth coverage of electrochemistry, but this video should give you an idea of what you need to know. The first topic you need to know for electrochemistry is redox reactions. Redox reactions are a part of the foundation of electrochemistry. The difference between redox reactions you learned in the past and the ones you do now in electrochemistry is that instead of putting the Lewis acid and base in the same container, you're going to actually separate them and make the electrons do work before they can be transferred from the oxidizing agent to the molecule that's being reduced. So with redox reactions, one of the most important things you need to know how to do is determine a Lewis acid and a Lewis base. So make sure you know how a Lewis base donates electrons and a Lewis acid accepts electrons. So here I'm denoting Lewis bases as blue circles and Lewis acids as red circles. So we're saying the Lewis base has electrons that it wants to give to the acid by the end of the reaction. So we'll signify the reaction path by this black arrow. And right here is where they're going to be exchanging electrons. So here, the Lewis base transfers its electrons to the acid. So the Lewis base is being oxidized. Let's write that in blue. Oxidation. And so this Lewis acid is accepting electrons, so it's being reduced. Reduction. So something you learned in class was this oil rig way of remembering the difference between Lewis acids and bases. So oil stands for oxidation is loss of electrons. And then rig is reduction is gain of electrons, which is in fact what we're seeing over here in this reaction. The oxidizing agent is losing its electrons and being oxidized, and this reducing agent is being reduced and gaining electrons. So here we can see this acid gaining electrons and the charge becoming more negative, so it's being reduced in charge. That's why we call it reduction. And then oxidation, it gains electrons. So another important thing in redox reactions is determining oxidation states. So make sure to review the rules of oxidation states. The example here, we have hydrogen, which always has a +1 charge. Oxygen always has a -2 charge. And to double check that the oxidation is correct, we know that the sum of this should be 0. And to prove that, that would be 1 for the +1 times the 2 hydrogens, that's +2. And then -2 for the -2 charge on oxygen. So make sure you know how to assign those oxidation states because that is used all the time in electrochemistry. It's important to know how to balance reactions, especially redox reactions, because in these reactions, once you know how to balance them, you'll be able to know how many electrons are being transferred back and forth. Also make sure you understand beaker drawings and cell diagrams for galvanic cells. You should be able to go in between them without a problem and understand them so that you can understand any question you're given. Know how to use standard reduction tables also. Also make sure you know how to determine if a reaction is favorable under standard conditions and or under non-standard conditions. So know how you can relate K, Q, E cell on all those variables. And then make sure you know the different types of batteries, primary, secondary, fuel cells. Make sure you also know about corrosion, sacrificial anodes. And then also, the last thing you learned was electrolysis. So make sure you know that and how you can use electricity to separate molecules, like running current through water to separate it into oxygen and hydrogen respectively.